Welcome to Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families. We are Katie and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us.
While this is a podcast for farm families, sometimes our content isn't for the whole family. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Barnyard Language, episode 2 of season 4. After today, I will probably lose track of how many episodes in we are, but it's still fresh and new. It's fall. September feels like the new year. Is that the same for you, Katie? I always feel like September is actually a new year. Like January, it's winter, it's cold, Christmas just happened. But like September, I want to buy like new pencils and a notebook, and then probably not use them because I don't really have any need for them. But
I feel like somewhere between the first day of school and the first time that it's cold enough to need a sweatshirt, that's where the new year is. Like it's just,
that's the new year right in there.
it's like a movable holiday.
Right. It starts to smell a little bit like fall. There's a few leaves changing here and there.
Yeah.
Yes. So what is happening in Iowa these days? What's the news?
Well, Arlene, by the time this comes out,
She's looking out the window.
I am, but a different window than usual. We are recording this on Monday, September 9th. I've been told that today might be the last day of painting.
Ooh. When did they start again? It feels like forever ago.
The middle of July.
That is a lot of painting. How big is your house?
It's not that big, but it is, it's an old farmhouse. It was built in 1905, so there's a lot of trim, and it's still wood siding. It's still the original siding, the original trim, yada, yada, yada. But they power washed it, then hand scraped it, then primed it, then I think a second coat of primer, and then 2 coats of paint over the whole thing, which for a lot of it has been brush. All the trim is brush. There's a lot of...
Right. And then probably some little repairs here and there.
Oh my God, a lot of repairs. A lot.
Yeah.
They've done an amazing job, but there's been most days 2 or 3 people here 40 hours a week for almost 2 months.
Looking in your window. Not always.
They were the other day, actually. When I went to grab my lunch, there was still plastic over my office window. My office has a picture window under the porch. And when I came back in my office with my lunch, there were 2 people, like, directly outside the window, which was...
Not eating lunch. Watching you eat your lunch.
Yeah. I went back to the living room with my lunch, and then put up a curtain when they went to get their lunch, because it was just... for my work, there is a privacy concern because I'm, looking at customer data, but also I will never be mentally stable enough to be able to work with 2 strangers literally standing behind me. Too weird.
Yeah.
But the house looks incredible, and I am so damn glad that we will not have to do this again for quite a while, because I had not realized how stressful I would find it to have people literally just outside my house 40 hours a week.
It's true when you're not used to people being around,
Yeah.
even if you don't have to interact with them. Just, like people being around your house all the time is definitely different.
And we have company coming this week, which is exciting.
And who's that?
I don't know, Arlene. Some crazy Canadian lady was like, I'm going to come brainwash your children about curling. Yes.
Yes, I'm coming to visit.
By the time this is out, Arlene will hopefully still be at my house. She hopefully will not have just found a plane ticket home and left.
I'd be like, I don't like the paint color, I'm leaving.
But also having to tell someone who's coming to visit soon that your kid has lice, which has happened and has been treated, is less than delightful.
Well, there's been lice in my house before too, so I'll just try not to rub my head up against any of your kids.
Well, that would be pretty weird anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I'm assuming I'm going to get my own pillow, so...
Oh wait, you thought you were getting a bed?
No, just a pillow.
We all sleep in one bed now. That includes you, Arlene.
Get a family bed.
All sleep in one bed. Yeah. Anyway, how are things in your world, Arlene?
Things are going pretty well. when you were talking about the first cold day where you need a sweater, we had one of those the other day and it was a major shock, but it was okay. I'm adjusting, but it's supposed to get hot again, so that's fine too. I'm not quite ready for like full on fall, although the leaves are starting to change, which is kind of nice. I was successful in giving blood the other day. I think I talked last week about the fact that I was going to do it, and I was successful. I did get a touch lightheaded right at the end, but as the person was coming over, they said I was just about to unhook you. So I was still able to successfully donate, even though they had to tip my feet up and put some cold cloths on my face. I think like the needles don't bother me that much. I think it was just really my body being like, that's enough. That's all. That's all you're allowed to have. Like, I guess that bag is all the blood that I am able to give. But I felt fine afterwards. I took lots of snacks and had lots of juice, and then I was able to exit under my own power. So that was good. And when they looked me up in the computer, the last time I gave, I had a different last name, which means that I haven't given in at least 20 years. Well, 21 years, because I was married 21 years ago, and that's the last time I had that last name. So it's been a while. So hopefully this will be the little push to keep doing that, because it's something that I can do. I know not everyone can for lots of different reasons. So I'm lucky to be able to do it. So I'm going to try my best to keep that up. And what else has been going on? I made another trip to the town where my daughter goes to university to help her get set up. So we put stuff up on walls and helped her and her roommates get decor up. My husband keeps laughing because when he went to university a few years ago, he's like, I think I had a poster. I don't know. Like, what do you need all this stuff for? But this is a house with 5 girls, and the aesthetic is the vibe is much more important. So we were working on the vibe. It looks very cute. There are, lots of twinkly lights in lots of different places. And yeah, so I got her set up, did some groceries, tried to coach her through, what is it that you like to eat? So these are some of the basics that you're going to need to start, right? Like spices and, kind of your like base ingredients for things. So did a Costco run and a grocery store run and all that kind of stuff. And the boys seem to be settling into school fairly well. I've got 2 in high school now. Number 3 just started grade 9, so he seems pretty happy with that so far, which is good. Came home on the first day and I asked him if he'd vaped, because there's a lot of chatter about vaping and not vaping and all the consequences of vaping, and he's not going to vape. He's not that kind of a kid. I hope. I shouldn't say that, because then of course he will. But he was like, Mom, I'm not going to vape in the bathroom. So no vaping. Yes, 2 in high school, the final child in elementary school, which is very strange because we've had a kid in that school since 2009. So, yeah, kind of weird to think that eventually we will age out of that school, but it's a K to 8 and he's only in grade 5. So we've got a good number of years left. And speaking of projects that go on and on and on, in the summertime, they started a construction project at the school. I believe what they're doing is moving the septic bed from one place to another so they can expand the parking lot. And so currently there's a giant gaping hole in the middle of the play yard. And then they had to put up like stronger construction fence for school to start so that no kids end up in the giant hole in the schoolyard. So according to my 5th grader, no one has fallen in the hole yet, but it's not quite done.
It's early days yet. It might still eat somebody.
Oh yeah, for sure. The ground is not frozen. It'll be fine. And I forgot how well people sleep during routine changes. Not always, but in the case of our family, I think people are more tired by peopling than some of the activities that they were doing in the summer. So there have been several nights where it's been very quiet a lot earlier than it was in the summertime. Plus, probably also trying to actually get them to bed earlier is a part of that too.
It getting dark earlier has helped substantially in getting my kids to bed before 10. And also, yes, I had not realized how exhausted they were just by humaning, although they've been in daycare all summer.
Mm-hmm. It's a different kind.
They seem much happier with each other, which, honestly, when I realized that when they go to daycare, they're in the same room 24 hours a day, basically, for the entire summer, it was a lot more understandable how they had gotten so grumpy with each other. So they are much happier now that they're not spending all of their time together.
Well, should we invite our next guest of the season to come and join us now?
I guess we better. But first, Arlene, tell us, are you having fun in Iowa?
Oh, I'm sure it's great. I'll tell you about it next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Charlotte, we always start each of our interviews with this very same question, and this is, what are you growing? So that can cover crops and livestock, but also kids and careers and businesses and all kinds of other stuff. So, Charlotte, what are you growing?
We are growing a farming life, basically, with Jersey cows.
Very exciting. So I believe that you're a parent too, or you're growing some kids as well.
Oh, yes, we have 2 children. Yeah, Anna and Rufus. Very English name, that, isn't it? Rufus. Yeah, they are 11 and 7.
Very cool. So starting to get into the bigger, maybe more helpful ages as a farming parent. I know that that's not why we have kids, but they do start to get more helpful.
Yeah, no, breeding a workforce is well up my street. I love it.
Yeah. So how many cows are we talking about, and what kind of setup do you have?
What do we have? So as of yesterday, we have 200. We spoke to the guy who we bought them off just for a number for the bull for the ear tag. And I was just wanting to register some calves. So I'd asked him really nicely, what's your bull's number? And I was like, how are you getting on? Have you got rid of everything? And he said, oh no, we have still got all the young stock. We can't seem to get rid of them. So we literally went, oh, well, we fancy being a little bit more skint in our lives. So we've now got, they arrived yesterday, a load of heifers, in-calf heifers, and young stock as well, like little babbies and things. And we literally cleared him out. But yeah, for a very good price, which we're really pleased with.
Nice. He wasn't even trying for a sales pitch, and it just worked out for him.
No, I think he wanted just personal circumstances. He wanted out. There's a big pipeline going through his farm. And he was just happy, I think, to be out, which is great for both of us, really. It was a really good situation.
Mm-hmm. And to have one spot where all of his animals are is probably kind of nice too, if he wants to check back in with anyone.
Yeah, for him, I think that was really nice for him. But for us, from a biosecurity kind of point of view, it was great to have them all coming from one place. We didn't want to be buying 20 from here and 20 from there, that kind of thing. So it's really, really good to have them all together.
Charlotte, we did something similar buying our beef cattle from a neighbor. Has your neighbor been driving by real slowly to check on them? When you first bought him, did you get that? Because it was a couple weeks before he stopped driving by. And thankfully, I don't think he ever actually brought the trailer with him. But there was a lot of cruising past real slowly, which I totally understand. These cows are a lifetime's worth of work for a lot of folks, and I get it. But I'm just wondering if we're the only ones who've gotten that check back.
Well, he was maybe 90 miles away, which to you guys is probably a lot less than what it is to us. But yeah, I think it's helpful that I tend to stick everything all over the internet, so he doesn't even need to leave his house to check on me. And you'll get the odd text message like, oh, what are you doing? Like, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. But yeah, it's all helpful.
Yeah.
But no, he wasn't driving past. No, he wasn't driving. It could have had a feedback out the window, like enticing them away from you.
I feel like with jerseys, it'd be a little harder to tell them apart, though, even on a drive-by. At least with a Holstein or something spottier, then you can definitely pick them out, even on a video, to be like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, definitely. They are individual for sure.
Yeah, and we have beef Normandies, and Gerald and Marie just live about less than 2 miles away. So, I joked, though, that
That's really nice for them, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been nice, too, to be able to buy some cows from them because we drove past a lot of times looking at those cows before we started buying any, and now we still do.
Roy's dad had some land coming down the lane, we call it, which is just this way. And we'd be muck spreading and spraying thistles and whatnot, checking cows. And there was this farm next door that we always literally just, it wasn't even an attainable dream. It was just a bit of a dream. Do you know what I mean? And now I'm sat in the office, and it's crazy to think that these things happen. But, people get older, don't they? And don't necessarily want the hard work of farming.
So tell us more about that story. So you bought the farm next door. Is that where the cows are right now? Yeah.
Yeah, right now where we are, yeah, there was a guy called Tom Savage, and he had Jersey cows. That's what they did. Foot and mouth wiped out his black and white herd, and then they restocked with Jerseys. And he did so well, such a knowledgeable man, really, really high up in societies and things like that, which is something I'm not that interested in. I don't say I'm not interested, but at the minute I'd rather just get to grips with milking cows than the show inside of it. But he was really into that. And he's come back loads to see us. He was here. He's helped us every time some cows have been dropped off. He's come down, and it's nice to see him just, stepping back into that role on the same farm. It's really nice to have him around because he really knows what he's talking about. But yeah, we just approached him. We just literally drove down the lane and in dirty clothes and covered in mud and stuff, and just said, is there any chance? And I think it was just, we were in the position to buy it, and they were getting that little bit older and they wanted to retire. And if you're not utilizing the farmland, it's actually a chore to do it. It's not an enjoyable big garden, is it? It needs tending. So yeah, it was just lucky for us that he was in a position to sell.
So you talked about livestock already. How many are actually milking right now?
There's 134 going through 2 Lely robots.
And in terms of crops, are you able to produce all the feed that you need, or what does it look like in terms of crop ground for your animals? Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's just grass. That is it. Like, we just grow grass. We try to grow there is some people that grow a little bit of maize around here, but honestly, it'll be a world away from what you guys are able to produce. It's just a different thing. I think at the most it'll get to 6 foot tall, which is, not particularly huge in terms of maize. Just grass. That's all we seem to be able to grow. We tried to do some barley one year, and that was an absolute disaster. It was just, the weather just isn't here for it. But yeah, we can grow grass really well, which is good. And they seem to be good at converting that into milk. So lucky for us.
Right. Yeah. And so grass then into silage or bales, or how?
Yeah, just silage. We have 2 silage pits. We used to do over 1,000 bales a year. We'd just make bales and wrap them, and you'd have black wrap bales of sort of, we'd call them silage bales, but they were sort of more like a haylage kind of thing. And then we put silage pits up, and we've not looked back really. It's just getting to terms with bales. You used to just be able to take them in at your leisure, and where silage, it's very go, go, go kind of thing. So that's just getting used to that. But taking advice from people has been really good, because there's a lot of people around here who've been doing it for years, and that's their specialty. So just taking advice from those kind of people is really handy.
So as a dairy farmer, we don't have robots, but I've been in lots of robot barns, neighbors and open houses, the way farmers like to tour each other's properties. For people who don't know much about automated milking, can you describe a little bit what a milking robot looks like and how it works for cows?
So yeah, we've gone for a very free flow kind of system. They make the decision when they go in and get milked. We weren't a dairy farm. We were a beef farm, beef and sheep. That's what we did. And, it was very yee-haw. There was lots of shouting and hollering and waving, and, like you don't hesitate at jumping on something. And it was very rough and tumble, that kind of thing. And this is very calm. Like, there's no shouting, there's no sticks, there's no nothing. They just do it, and it's just a different way of working with a different animal. Like, if we were going to be PDing cows and checking if they're in calf, it would be like we'd run them through the crush, and then and then there'd be 1 and 2 would run through at the same time, and you'd be trying to get one back, and it was all very like go, go, go kind of thing, and one wouldn't go through, and I'd be sat on its back jumping up and down, and now it just, they just walk. It's crazy, honestly. It's just so calm. And that's one of the things that I've had to get used to, because you don't have to push something through. You just put it in the computer, and then in the morning it shed it off to the back and it stood waiting for you, which is just a world away from what we are used to. But yeah, they're going to be, the low yielding cows will be grazed, the high yielding cows will stay in. Ideally, we had this perfect little utopia vision in our heads that everything was going to be grazed, and they were going to be lying around on the fluffy grass, and it was all going to be lovely and green, and and then you get advice from people who know what they're talking about, and they come and they say, no, you're literally going to do damage to your cows and stop them producing by letting all these high yielding cows out, they need a controlled diet and all the rest of it. They need to be looked after properly. So we've got a grazeway, which it just lets them out and in and out through just the collars, just tells them whether they're allowed to go out or not. So we will set that the lower yielding cows and the ones that are ready to dry off can go out, but the high yielding ones stay in. So it's just all learning how to work a system like that, because it is very new to us.
I feel like too, as a beef producer, and from what I know of the few jerseys I've worked with, it seems like if you tried to work jerseys the way people normally work beef cattle, they would probably just die of horror from the whole concept. Like they don't seem like real rough and tumble animals. Like I've met some that were sassy, but never like Angus can be. Never like I've never seen one be like, fuck you, I'm going to take your barn down. Like Angus are just like, to hell with you. Like, I will destroy this place.
Yeah, they literally will run through a wall. But yeah, no, they're more likely to, if you shouted at them and you got cross at them, they're more likely to just lie on the floor and just sit there looking at you like, what the hell? Like they're really pathetic little things. And like we've noticed, if there's something, even the slight bit of something off, or one's got its ears down or its eyes look a bit sad, do something about it there and then, because otherwise, like with a beef cow, you've got that time, that grace period where you go, oh, she's looking a bit peaky, we'll see what she's like tomorrow. There is no see what she's like tomorrow, because they just go downhill so fast. So it's just working, it's just a different animal altogether. It's funny though, isn't it? Like you go to all these meetings and things and round tables and discussions and things with arable farmers and beef, sheep, all the rest of it, even fruit farmers and things. We're all under the same kind of umbrella, but God, they're different. So different.
Well, and it's amazing how much, especially with livestock, the species or the breed can make or break what you're doing. Because, I know people who've had hogs and hated them, or had sheep and hated them, and it's just, don't torture yourself. Just find something you enjoy, because it's not going to go well. You're not going to make money. You're not going to make money anyway, but you're really not going to make money if you hate it.
Well, it's just a better quality of misery, isn't it?
Why be miserable and not make money?
But no, I think you've got to love it.
There's our new tagline, Arlene. A better quality of misery.
It is, isn't it? You're like, we enjoy what we do, but we're still all miserable. Whether it's the weather, whether things are going wrong, lambing was bad, like it could be anything. It's just a different way, isn't it?
Well, and I like to, I was listening to another interview with you this morning where you were talking about how you got into the jerseys because they were pretty. And I don't feel like that's a bad thing. If that's like the only thing you base a decision on, that might be a little negative. But as someone who's raising beef Normandies largely because they are pretty.
And yet you're made to feel bad for saying things like that, like it's some kind of lesser reason, which is ridiculous. Like, don't get me wrong, for a small scale producer, which we are small, like, it's not a big farm, is it? We've got 200 acres, give or take, and, 200 cows kind of thing. We're not massive, but it needed to be something slightly niche, but not niche enough that it would break you if it went wrong. So we're getting a higher milk price because of obviously the butterfat and the proteins in the Jersey milk. It goes to a specialist producer, but not one that it's any risk to us. Do you know what I mean? And it needed to be a smaller cow that was lighter on the feet. There needed to be more efficient converters. And it just so happened that the guy who lived here had the right idea. And I used to stand next door, when me and Roy first started going out, and I just kind of followed him around like this aimless puppy. Do you know what I mean? With petting cows and God knows what, which to look back now, I was the most embarrassing thing. We used to have matching boiler suits. There's a picture. I'll send you a picture to put on because it's absolutely hilarious. We were so pathetic, matching Valtra boiler suits. And I was just so besotted with like the whole, what the way of life should have been. And then you actually get farming and you really get into it and you realize it's absolutely nothing like that whatsoever. And you're just always tired. You look rough. Everything's stressful. You've never got any money. You're never clean. The kids smell of slurry. And you know what I mean? It's just a different thing altogether. You don't even have time to get your children ready for school in the morning. So like they end up going in the filthy, and I'll drop Rufus off at school and I'll look at him. I'm like, Jesus, there's a tide mark around your neck. You really need to have a wash. Like, or like I have to get the hairdryer out in the morning and dry the clothes because I'm so stupid that I've forgotten to put them in the dryer at night. And it's like, you're like, is this the life I wanted?
I made a lot of decisions that got me here, so clearly it was, but yeah.
I know. But I made this, and you know what? It translates across every sea that we've got. All of us will be in the same boat, and everybody seems to look in from the outside and think, I want that life. Isn't it good? And then when you're in it, you're like, oh, hon, you have no idea.
Podcasts are free to listen to, but they aren't free to create. Katie and I would appreciate your support as we work to build the Barnyard Language community.
Patreon is an easy way for you to make a contribution that goes directly to making the show. As a member of our Patreon community, you get to watch the video version of our weekly updates, complete with questionable hairstyles and clutter. With 3 levels of support, you can choose a tier that works for you.
Keep the podcast going by becoming a patron today at patreon.com/barnyardlanguage.
So that actually leads really well into my next question, and I'm going to bury the lead a little here. This assumption that anyone who marries in doesn't want to be farming, that we've just been dragged into it kicking and screaming and definitely aren't wearing matching outfits and taking pictures of rando strangers' cows. That does not sound at all like anything I would ever have done. And also, the other day I was brushing my daughter's hair and I was like, I don't think your hair's been brushed since we saw Aunt Jamie last week. And my husband goes, that was 2 weeks ago. And I was like, well, okay, I'm a great mom. But you know what? My kids love it. My 7-year-old doesn't give a shit if her hair doesn't get brushed. And we wouldn't trade it for anything, despite the fact that we are gross and broke and exhausted,
But I think that's why, like, podcasts and social media and stuff, like, and I feel I do a lot of videos. I mean, I'll put like literally videos every day of varying forms on varying platforms, and I enjoy making them. But also the connection that you make with people that you've never met, you don't know them, you're never gonna see them either, which is the funny thing. And they're going through exactly the same things as you, and they'll write to you, and I'll be like, I did a post the other week and it was ridiculous, and it was a joke about my pile of washing. I can't even show it you, it's that embarrassing. Like, seriously, it is. Social services should come and take my kids off me. Like, it's that bad. Like, it is so huge, this pile of washing. It is a mountain. And then if you go in the living room, there's a pile of drying that just hasn't been put away. And do you know what? If you want clean clothes, go through that other pile and find the clean ones. And if they've not been washed, put them in. And then it's just a circle. They never get put away. But like, we're all in the same boat, and it's so relatable to people that I used to get really cross at, like, the perfect farm mum kind of accounts of like baking bread and doing all this stuff. At one point in my life, I was in a position, believe it or not, that I made scones in my kitchen. I mean, it's fucking amazing. They were shit, but that's not the point. I tried to make that perfect life. And I used to make like brownies and stuff. I don't know where the hell time went, and I just don't have the time anymore. And it was just so much effort to try and keep up with what you thought you were meant to be. And then I think you find the most enjoyment when you actually genuinely, you get to 36 years old and you do not give a shit what people think. Like, I wouldn't even dare take my hat off because, like, you do not want to know what's under you. Like, do you know what I mean? But that's when you find yourself the most, when you stop trying to be what other people think you should be, which is great. And I just think sharing that, although, yeah, it might be gross. And you might feel sometimes that, yeah, probably you should try maybe a little bit better to be a slightly better parent. But they're fine. Like, they're all right. They're loving it. Like, rolling around in dirt and chasing chickens.
I figure as long as my kids aren't actually hungry, I mean, they say they're hungry every 38 seconds probably, but they are not actually going hungry. They are dressed fairly appropriately for the weather. I generally know where they are. I generally notice if they're significantly injured. We read, we do the things, space to run, they have creativity, they have people who love them. That's the part that matters. And I generally try to send them to school without cow shit on them that I know about, because it seems rude to send a shitty kid to school.
For me, it's mostly the shoes, though.
Oh, the shoes. Oh, God.
Like, if we've got some school shoes, can we just keep those as school shoes? Like, don't wear them to the barn.
I know. Why do they have to try and wear them outside? Why would you do that? Why are you in the middle of a cowshed in your PE trainers?
Yeah, those are the ones that I was trying to keep clean.
The boy child's kindergarten teacher told me earlier this year that during story time, he takes his shoes off and chews on them.
Yikes.
She and her family raise beef cattle too. She knows where those shoes have been. Like, well, he's got a strong immune system. So.
It's good bugs. They are good bugs.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. The one good thing here is that at the beginning of the year, kids have to go with indoor shoes and those ones stay at school. So at least I know the ones they're wearing inside are going to be clean. I can't say what the ones they go to school in are going to be like for farm kids.
I feel like they made that rule for me.
Valid. Okay, so we'll get back to the question that's actually on here. Also, Charlotte, listening to you trying to swat a fly during your other interview was the most seen I have felt in so long, because I work remotely. I work for a tech company. I work with people who aren't Googling questions like, how do I clean fly guts off my computer monitor? Because that's apparently not a thing that everybody deals with.
There is a lot.
I don't know.
How is it not? How is it not? Like, look at the state of it in front of me. How?
Seriously, I thought about this again the other day because I got in my car. We have people living in outer space, but we don't have a way to kill flies in the car that isn't, like, going to kill my family.
Have you heard of the wasps that you can get?
The wasps?
You can get. There's a company, it's like wasp eggs or something. And you bury them in like the corner of your calf pens or whatever, and then these wasps hatch and they eat the flies.
Could you put them in in Katie's car?
That's what I was just wondering.
I wonder how big the wasps are.
Yeah. Feels like it would work in some spaces and not others. Maybe not in our houses.
I can imagine customs. I'll send you some wasps, and they're like, "What's in the package?" Well,
just a bit of larva. It's fine.
I do love though that when you go to Walmart or whatever in our area, and you can tell who the farm parents are by who gets in the car, rolls all the windows down, and you see the whole family going, trying to get the flies out. Anyway, we will get back to the questions that are actually on here. So what is your background when it comes to agriculture? Because I felt I had a lot to say just about this, but I will let you say things.
I don't have a background in agriculture at all. I'm from a place called Preston. It is I want to say like a medium-sized, large town, kind of small city kind of thing. A university town, so there's lots of like Chinese kids come over, things like that. Not necessarily anything to do with farming. I went to a huge school. I was not academic at all. My little lad is probably, I can see him being exactly the same as me, just kind of slipping through the net and just being, just existing. And I just remember being useless, like everything. I remember feeling useless, being useless, being lazy, being just everything that you probably shouldn't be. I had no get up and go whatsoever. And that's no one's fault. It was just what I felt like I was at the time. I'd just stay in bed all day. I was basically just an absolute letdown, really. And I just remember my mum and dad just despairing of me, really. Like, there was nothing, I had no interests. I had nothing to inspire me. I used to read a lot and just lose myself in books. But, like, I remember watching, like, the Kardashians on TV, on, like, MTV or whatever the hell it was on back then, and thinking, God, I'd love to have that amazing life. I didn't want to put in the work to get there. I just kind of wanted, the end result. And yeah, nothing really just stuck with me. I tried office job after office job, and I got fired from every single one. And honestly, I can say, I've said it in other things, I have been fired from every single office job I have ever had. And I just can't sit still. I should be crocheting now, because otherwise I'm twiddling with something. But like I get distracted really easily. So if I start reading this in front of me, like I'm gone. It's ridiculous. So I was a carer. I used to go around and do care in the community. I'd go and look after old people, sick people, that kind of thing. And I absolutely loved it. I thought I'd literally found my calling. And it was the way that people sort of, I don't know, just welcomed you into their home as like a trusted kind of person. And that was the bit that I really thrived on. And I did like my absolute best. I made literally friends with people that I absolutely loved. And then I met Roy at a party in a place called Manchester, and he had at the time I think like 30 beef cows, probably slightly less maybe, and it was like a hobby gone wrong, a very expensive hobby. And we ended up getting together. I moved in with him literally 3 months after meeting him, because it was just like, it was just this whirlwind kind of thing. And it wasn't actually, I never really looked at him and thought, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you. But hey ho, 16 years later, here we are. He farmed, and I remember they also had a Ford dealership and like a garage, a mechanic kind of fixing cars thing. And they were all really, really busy people. So they'd be like, cow needs putting on, a calf needs putting on. You go literally with a piece of, blue pipe, and you put that calf on. And every time that cow kicks, you hit the cow. Like that was what we did. Which, looking back now, I wouldn't put that on the internet, and I wouldn't vocalize that was what we did, but we did. That's how it was. That's how I got into farming. And I, yeah, just got thrown in at the deep end. There was no one to help. There was no one to look at for, guidance, because you're on your own on a farm, and you learnt the hard way. And then gradually Roy's dad got older, and I got, slightly more confident, and we had this little funny overtaking where I did the jobs that he used to do, and then he kind of came in for, more manual things, so like, dehorning and whatnot, things like that needed, obviously at the time, a man's kind of touch. And yeah, and then as time went on, the divide just kind of got bigger and bigger, and he'd kind of stay inside and I'd do all the work that he used to. And then we got our own farm, and bless him, he comes and he still tells us what to do, which is great. And his favourite thing is, I'm not telling you your business, but and it's mostly about growing hay or when to cut and things like that, which is absolutely brilliant, and we love him to bits for it. But yeah, we ended up, I did a lot of things that probably were maybe slightly silly looking back. And I had this attitude of, no one's going to tell me I can't do anything. And ain't no man gonna beat me. Like, I am gonna literally do what and I'd put myself in some really silly positions. And I am surprised I've never been laid out by a cow. I really am, because I've seen Roy be laid out by a cow. And yeah, there's just been some, like just before we gave up with the suckler cows, there was a Limmy had calved, and previous years she'd been absolutely fine, but she's a big, big animal. And I was gonna just put iodine on the calf, so I went in, and Roy was behind me. And she literally, all I remember was like her, like kind of stepping forward. And I actually thought she was falling. I thought she was stumbling, and she wasn't. She was going. And I fell over backwards, but luckily rolled and kind of rolled out of the way. And as I was far enough away, she didn't come any further. But it was just that ballsy stupidity that I had of like, nothing can hurt me. I'm invincible, because nothing bad's ever happened, which I think, yeah, that would be the only kind of thing that I kind of regret, not taking the safety quite as seriously as I should do, especially when you're putting it on the internet for everyone to see, and there's youngsters kind of going, oh, well, she can do it. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe I was a bit silly.
So when did the discussion start? I'm assuming it was between you and Roy about making that switch from beef to dairy, because like you said, that is not a natural transition, and you're talking about completely different setups in terms of barns and completely different breeds, and it's a whole lifestyle change too. So was that one or the other of you, or were you both kind of thinking about it, or where did that come from?
No, It was Roy, really. He always kind of had the notion that he wanted to put jerseys back here on Laver. So he always said to Tom when we bought the place, he was like, I'm gonna put jerseys back on the farm. And they were really kind. They took us to some stock judging things, even though it was a world away from what we were used to. And like they'd say, judge this jersey, and I'm like, God, it's skinny. That's all I could think is like, look at the size of it. Like it literally wants some meat on those arses. Like I was used to looking at big curvy things, and they were really, really kind that way. But it's taken how long? We've been here 7 years, and it's taken till now to get the cows here. So it wasn't a quick transition. And when we got here, Roy's dad said, don't do anything at all for a year. You pull no buildings down. It was all like tin and pole barns with, tin roofs and things. And he said, you work it as it is. And you know what? There was nothing wrong with it. It was great. It maybe didn't look quite as fancy as a new setup, but there was nothing wrong with it. And we worked it as it was. We had no pneumonia problems. Everything was absolutely fine. And then we started making changes, but the changes were for jerseys in mind. So when we put up the calving shed, it wasn't built for housing 30-odd, 40-odd suckler cows. So when we started doing this, the handling system was the main thing that we put in for the beef cows, and it made a hell of a difference. I mean, that is a serious piece of kit. It's made everything so much, like TB testing, for instance. Like, I don't know whether you guys have to TB test. So it's like bovine tuberculosis. So yeah, it was just, that was one of the best things. Like TB testing is certain areas have problems with TB. It's transmitted by badgers, deer, rabbits, all sorts of things can carry it. And they test for it with avian tuberculin and bovine tuberculin, and they basically put 2 little shots in their neck, and they see how big of a reaction there is. And if one lump's bigger than the other, they've got a reaction, and then essentially the animal needs to be killed. Funnily enough, it still goes into the beef chain, so I'm not quite sure how the whole thing, whether... Yeah, people have a lot of suspicions about the whole TB thing. It's just a bit of a very sore subject because no one seems to want to try and sort it out, but there's lots of testing goes on, and it's quite stressful because you need all the animals in through the crushing one day. And, with beef animals especially...
All ages?
All ages. So I think a calf is at 35 days. From 35 days old, they need to be tested. Anything tiny is fine. But like we were bringing them in from the field with calves at foot, and then you're ramming them all through the crush, and you've got, your limmy cows literally stumbling over the top of these calves that have just been, and you're just like, oh, the stress was unreal. And that was one of the main reasons I'm finding that I'm really grateful for the switch, because these cows, they're all the same size, they're all really seemingly well behaved, and they just walk places, and I'm really grateful for that. I think that's really great. But yeah, that's one of the things that I'm finding really useful. But yeah, building the farm has been really interesting. We started building the shed in 2020, it went up, and then we started in January, I think, kitting it out, which was definitely a feat in itself because we did quite a lot with the builders, which I think we were more of a hindrance than anything. But, we were free labour, so...
They had to give you a few jobs.
They had to. Well, to be fair, they didn't have a choice. It was me stood there with a video camera.
Either you're going to be on YouTube or you're going to let me help.
Yeah, I know.
I know the feeling, though, of having the father-in-law that's waiting to help with something. Arlene, the painters are coming on Monday, and I'm already... It's on my to-do list today to ask my mother-in-law to find something that he needs to do on Monday, because he's...
So you don't find him up on some scaffolding at some point?
Or just telling them how to do it. My father-in-law is a wonderful man. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of very good ideas. But it really slows shit down if you tell the people you're paying to do stuff how to do stuff instead of just letting them do the stuff. And
ours was really good at coming and standing and talking to the builders. Like, you just wanted to have conversations with them. And I'm like, we're paying these guys like hundreds of pounds.
Yeah, we're paying these people by the hour.
Like, maybe I can get you a megaphone and you can yell up to them or something instead of forcing them to stand here while you talk to them.
I know, I love it. They are funny.
So as a dairy farmer, I had this thought this morning while I was milking cows that with robots, there's going to be a generation of people who have not milked cows, and I put that in quotation marks, the way dairy farmers have milked cows, right? Like they're having to go to the barn twice a day or 3 times a day, depending on your setup. This is not coming from me, but have you had any dairy farmer judgment for being a farmer who does not have to physically be in the barn at milking time?
Yeah, it's a really peculiar one because I think there's over the last 2 or 3 years, I think it's changed. I really do. I think technology moves so fast, doesn't it? And, you know, everything is constantly evolving. And like we bought a robot trained herd of cows. Like, who would have thought that you would have been able to find a robot trained herd of cows, never mind jerseys, that were 70 miles away? It's just crazy to think that that's how far we've come, that there are herds being sold that are robot trained. And yeah, I think a couple of years ago, if you'd have mentioned it, say our dairy engineer, Colin, lovely, lovely man. I think the world of him. He's absolutely brilliant. But if you'd have said to him, like we did do years and years ago on the forecourt when I was serving in petrol, and we'd say we were thinking of putting robots in. Oh, them bloody things, can't stand them, they're horrible, they do this, they do that. And he was dead against it, really dead against it. And now you speak to him, and he put all of our bulk tanking and things, and he thinks they're absolutely marvellous. Haven't they come on? Look at the cows, how happy and how settled. And I think it just is, with farming in general, that people don't like change. And I think just seeing more people finding it easier. And it's not that you've got more time. Like, I don't have more time than anyone who's milking cows. I'm just not knackered. I'm not I'm not done in. And I find that I still have energy to do things. Now, when I was milking for somebody else, albeit, I was getting up at 5 and I was there for 6 kind of thing. And by 9 o'clock at night, my eyes were closing and I was just no crack whatsoever. And I was just really tired. And, we know loads of farmers that milk traditionally in a normal way. And, if you went round to the house, you'd find the guy, you'd be having a conversation and all of a sudden you'd just like, their eyes are closed on the sofa. And they're falling asleep because they're just so tired and so done in. And yet we still seem to have the energy because we're not having to get up that bit earlier. But I don't seem to have found any more time in a day to do stuff. In fact, I just seem to have found less time to do things. Like, when people say about like dairy farmers take the absolute piss and say like beef and sleep farmers, like they weren't joking. They were not joking. Like at this time of year, a couple of years ago, I'd turn the cows out and I'd be going around them once a day and making sure nothing's dead. And, looking for a bit of mastitis, making sure no fences have been broken, maybe going among the sheep once or twice a day. And it was like this leisurely, lovely way of life that I loved. But don't get me wrong, when you did bring them in to do something with, the intensity of the work was so much stronger and more stressful that they kind of even each other out. And it's funny to be able to see it from both perspectives. But like any dairy farmers that I know, I was speaking to a lass yesterday in the shop. And she said there, oh, we're getting on now. We're thinking we might get, maybe go into beef. And I'm thinking, you literally would, you'd kill yourselves. Like it would be super, super hard work, especially at that older age to go into beef. Like it's just so stressful to be able to work these animals. You literally need to have no fear for your life whatsoever.
Yeah, there's definitely that difference of animals. I mean, it's a lot of breed temperament too, but animals who are around people all the time, that it's just their normal, right? They're constantly going through gates. They're constantly seeing people, being touched by people. Like it's a completely different thing, right? You can't expect an animal who's been alone with her calf for the most of that calf's life to then be okay with a human just coming in and starting to handle that baby. Like that's not how that's going to go. But yeah. So you talked a little bit about TB testing, but I was thinking for some of our North American listeners, and I know there's a huge difference between all types of farms. We've already talked a little bit about that, but what are some of the main differences you would think between, say, a UK dairy farm and one that you might find in Canada or the US?
So I think actually, the obvious thing is to say is size, but I think I might actually be wrong. I think that just might be a preconceived thing that I've got about America being huge. There probably are some smaller farms that are just maybe not quite as widely publicized.
I think, like being Canadian, we have supply management still, so our farm scale is a lot smaller than the US. So I mean, we don't have the huge farms like they do in the States either. So that would be kind of one of the differences too. Like we milk 80 cows, so our herd average is about the same as a lot of I mean, there are bigger farms than us, but there are also smaller ones than us too. So in Canada, the herd size is definitely lower than in the US.
I think though, Arlene, at least in our area, for a normal family dairy farm, which there are a lot fewer of than there were even 10 years ago, 80 to 120 head is pretty normal.
Mm-hmm. But then they do have those. Yeah, there are those huge ones. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm thinking that they're all massive.
Yeah, but most of those families also have at least one person working off farm full time, if not both of them. So to have people home on the farm full time, most families either have a lot more cows or they have off farm jobs. That's
Are you and Roy able to be on farm full time, Charlotte?
Yeah, I started doing YouTube 2 years ago or something, and luckily that all goes through the farm. It doesn't come to me. And you know what? It's been a lifeline. It's so pathetic to think that social media has enabled me to take a wage. Like that's crazy. Me and Roy had never paid each other at all, especially up until the cows come in. All we'd done is give money out all the time. There was nothing coming in. It was crazy. So doing YouTube enabled me to put it through the farm but take a wage out, so me and Roy both get paid. And it's not a lot of money, to be perfectly honest. It literally is 100 quid a week, which I don't know what that translates to, but it's probably still similar, not a lot. But it's 100 quid a week I wouldn't have otherwise. And we always try and say to people, like, we're so lucky in the fact that the farm pays for, your council tax. I don't know how your guys works, but like our council tax goes in and pays for, schools and roads and God knows what, and things like that, and broadband and, your telephone, like all these things that other people have to come out of their own back pocket, the farm pays for anyway. The cars, the diesel that goes in the cars, like I don't have to pay for that. So when I have a little wage, I don't cost a lot to run. We don't cost a lot to keep. And we're so lucky. Like my kids are eating like homegrown beef and lambs that were killed here and pigs that we reared ourselves that were killed. Well, they weren't. They were actually had to go to the abattoir. But all this meat and stuff that they're eating would be costing an absolute arm and a leg to be able to go and buy. I would not be able to afford to feed my kids this if it wasn't for the fact that it was essentially free to us, which makes it, yeah. But it's so much better for them. But they don't know they're born. Them kids, they don't have a clue. They don't know what ready meals are. They don't know what cheap food is and processed food, because they don't have it. But not because I'm some kind of prudish mum, just because it's so much cheaper to feed them what we grow ourselves. That I wouldn't be able to afford to feed them off anything else. But they don't have iPads and things. Get outside, go and get dirty. I'd rather you do that than sit inside. You cause less trouble.
Have they watched you on YouTube? Do they know that that's something that you do?
Yeah, Anna finds it really embarrassing. She's 11, and she absolutely hates it. But it's not good for her when she's going to school.
That seems age appropriate.
Yeah, it is. I think just everything I do in general, just me in general, is embarrassing for her. The way I look,
yeah,
the way that we pull up at school with sheep in the back of the car, and the clothes she wears, like me pulling up in wellies. She just, everything about me is just embarrassing to her. But hopefully, do you not think it's really funny? These kids grow up and all they want to do is get away from farming for some reason. And then they'll hit 25, 30. And all they'd want to do is spend their life trying to get out in the countryside and spend time on the land. And if not working it, they'll go walking, they'll go camping, they'll go to the coast they'll do all sorts of things. And it's all people trying to get out into the countryside. And yet we're doing it all day, every day. And we just take it for granted. It's really funny.
When you were talking about being out in the countryside, one of my perceptions, I spent a little bit of time in the UK on a young farmers exchange. So that's kind of my link to.
So do you have young farmers?
So we had a program called Junior Farmers, and so they did exchanges every year. And so I got to spend 3 months in the UK staying with different farmers. But my perception from that time, I mean, I have some of my best memories from that time, but just how close everyone is together, being Canadian and everyone's real spread apart. And we've got neighbors, but thinking about, and the access that people have to the land too, the right to roam, is that kind of what it's, like people having footpaths across farm property, which is not a thing here. Like you don't have access.
Oh, is it not?
No, like.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, private property is private property. There are trails, but those would be separate from, like, no one would have access to my land unless I granted it to them, kind of thing. So I was wondering about the ways that you have to interact with the public, like in the non-online sense, and what kind of pressure that puts on you as a farmer, but also to represent your industry too, right? Like to be a good neighbor. So how are those interactions for you and for your family? Because I'm guessing there's some farmers, but you're also dealing with lots of people who aren't.
Yes, a lot of people that don't. Like, we all think we're quite mainstream and people get it, because I think everyone's got like the common sense of a farmer, and wow, they just don't. They're so removed from farming. Like, 200 years ago or something, everyone would have been related to a farmer, never mind known one. And now, even in our village school, which is a farming community.
That sound was Katie hitting a fly, in case you're wondering.
It was, wasn't it? Get that fly.
You missed it.
Katie, I have a leather fly swat, and I think it was actually.
Oh, that's fancy.
I think it was for. Honestly, think it was for bondage.
I do too. I love this thing.
But like, I ordered it with the naivety that it's an actual fly swat, and when it came, Roy was like, "Oh my God, that is fancy," and I'm like, I know, it's so good.
Ours came from the Amish store, so I believe that it was actually.
Probably not for bondage then.
No judgment, whatever. But that comment has been made more than once about it. But you are correct. The plastic ones disintegrate. And this one is, and it makes the most satisfying, it makes like the whip crack noise when you really get one. And it is chef's kiss.
Oh, they do. You've got to give it some force as well. You want that sound. So when you say like see, I call them Amish, but I think it's Amish, isn't it? I saw a video the other day of them putting a house up, like a big house. Oh my God, in 24 hours. It took us like literally years to build things here. Like, just years to build things. And then they were like little ants all over it. And then it was finished. Is that a real thing, or is this the internet lying to me?
Our barn was put up in 1921, and they built the stone foundation. And then they built all the walls as panels, painted them on the ground, and put the entire barn up in one long work day.
Wow.
And it was just like beams and all. Everybody was paid with the new hammer. And it's 60 by 60 by 100 feet long. And it's, yeah. What does crack me up though is the Amish, they don't use electricity, but a lot of communities, the rules kind of differ by who the bishop is. So like I have a friend who's local Amish, like can't have cushions on their furniture, where here, like my husband hired a crew to build his shed, and they came, the first thing they did was plug in their cell phones and open their cans of Mountain Dew. And then they put up a shed in like a day and a half.
Yes, it's just different, isn't it? I can't remember what we were even talking about.
Oh, we were talking about people not having farmers in their lives, or not having connection to agriculture.
Well, we have anyone who isn't in England will be horrified. Public footpaths. So they were basically old because everything's so bloody squashed together here, essentially postmen and, people taking packages and whatnot needed to get about. And they were old trails, they were old routes that the post service used to use and things like that. And then they have been, over the years, just continued and maintained and made into a network of public footpaths. So we have now, I think, 3 only. But some farms that are near cities and, like on the urban fringe, they struggle badly. I mean, it's horrendous. Like bales being set on fire, dogs, especially among your livestock, is a massive, massive issue. But like, if in comparison to where you guys live, we are so condensed and squashed in. You can drive across the UK in a day if you wanted to, and there's that many people crammed into an island, so you're gonna have issues. So we tend to be, you're not really meant to, it sounds silly, you're not meant to put bulls where there's a public footpath, but I'm not being funny. I would be more cautious putting cows and calves out next to a footpath than I would the bulls. And then recently there's been a farmer who has been prosecuted. It actually, cow and calf, and the cow killed a woman, which was absolutely bloody awful. And you can see how it could happen. I've seen cows turn when they've had calves. It just is, if you're a farmer, you get it. And also if you're a farmer, you kind of get the look as well, or the noise or anything. But if you're not attuned to that, you're not going to get it. You walk between a cow and its calf, which is over there, and the cow's just, So it's a massive bone of contention with farmers and with the public as well, because they are so used to having the right to do it that it's become a normal thing that they have the right to do it. And yet, from a farming perspective, you're trying to say, but we're trying to work. And not only that, this belongs to me. I have paid money for this. This is my garden, essentially. Like, and I'm trying to make money off it like you would. And, how would you feel if I was to come and, trips around your garden kind of thing? But it's a huge, if you go online anywhere and do anything to do with public footpaths, it just is an automatic argument. If you want an algorithm and an argument and you want to make some money off social media, public footpaths, literally start an argument on it, boom, the post goes wild. And all you need, it's crazy. So I tend to stay away from it because they have rambling associations that go around and keep them open. So they go and walk the footpaths to make sure that they're used, so you cannot close them down. And they go around and it's a crazy, crazy argument. And I can see both sides, but I'm not a farmer that's necessarily inconvenienced with public footpaths at all. We've never had issues. We've never had dog attacks as such. No one ever really comes traipsing around the farm. We are very rural though. We're how far are we off Scotland? 60 miles off Scotland. So we're pretty far up. We're away from cities of any kind. And generally it is very much a rural community, so people get it. But like in lockdown when no one was allowed out, which, the dreaded COVID thing, there was farmers round us that were like, they were wanting to go to solicitors and close public footpaths down because the public were walking on their land. And I'm like, do you know what? Stop being an absolute fucking arsehole. Like, why would you do that? Like, these kids are stuck in their bedrooms in a 2-bedroom house playing on computer games. And, the poor mother is stuck with them in the house, which is awful. And all she wants to do is have a walk. Just leave her alone. Like, you wouldn't even notice. You would never notice. So I'd literally text everyone at school and I was like, listen, field's down the river, they've got nothing on. It's direct, that's next to the village. We're a little bit further away, but the field's down the river. There's 40 odd acres next to the river. And Ray was like, just text him and just tell him, just do what you want. Try not to trample the grass if you can, but just go and stretch your legs, use it as your own. That's it. And there was people walking, and maybe the edge of the field was, there was nothing on it, but did it bloody matter? It was just, you get that really grumpy farmer thing, which I don't know whether you guys get it maybe as much because you're not faced with the public quite as much, but round here it's very much like, get off my land. And I'm just like, oh man, come on, get a grip.
We do have coyote hunters here. That I don't know if coyotes are even a thing in the UK.
Are they like dogs?
Yeah, they're wild. They're about
Like smaller than a wolf.
Yeah, 20 to 25 kilos. So like
A wolf. Oh, sorry, a wolf.
a coyote, but it's smaller.
Well, no, like they're smaller than a wolf, but yeah, like a...
And do they no, just no, I wouldn't go outside.
No, I mean we actually have upstairs the wolf gun that my husband's great-grandfather bought when he bought the farm, because the wolves would come out of the woods like on the property at night. And they had 12 little kids.
Oh no. Oh, we wouldn't have that. Oh, I'd have an electric fence about.
It was 1905. But the coyote hunters will, they hunt coyotes to keep us all safe from these 40-pound dogs that eat rabbits.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can cause some serious problems with sheep and things. And there's a whole... I'm not getting into this. But they will run them from one property to the next. And then they will say that they are doing me a personal favor by trespassing on my land, which is marked, and shooting animals that are technically mine because they live on my property. As much as I love the public and community, the idea of having randos just walking across my farm all the time with dogs and setting fires, and I can feel my shoulders going up to my ears just thinking about it. Because
it's crazy, isn't it?
I've called the sheriff and I've had some very strong conversations with some folks.
Say if you had a farm that had a public footpath and you wanted to grow like arable crops on it, would you have to maintain that footpath? Like if you wanted to convert it from pasture, say, okay, so they would even be able to walk through your crops.
So you are responsible. Yeah, you are responsible for maintaining the footpath.
Right.
And the fences, and honestly, so literally, it's crazy. There was something the other day on Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell you want to call it now, and there was a guy who he had Cambridge rollers, so like the big fold-out rollers, and he'd obviously been doing something. And if you were a farmer, you'd understand what he'd done. You could see the edge of the field, all around the edge. They'd been using it to drive along. And, the crops were dead. There was nothing there. There was wheel marks you could see. So the guys parked the Cambridge rollers spread out across where, the car would be driving. And this guy's posted it on Twitter and said, I can't believe farmers would do anything to stop us walking on a public footpath, blah, blah, blah. All he had to do was bloody walk round it. But like, it's this, I think it's just this, it's like cyclists, maybe. You get like a thing with cyclists. Yeah, it's that very, I don't know, an entitled sense of kind of, I will do this, which is crazy. But I don't think, most farmers wouldn't care that you're walking around the edge of a field, on a footpath, which is absolutely fine. If you weren't damaging anything or, inconveniencing anyone in any way, it isn't necessarily an issue. But yeah, it's definitely a crazy, crazy thing that I can never get my head around how it still happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge difference from here for sure, because I know we grant access in the wintertime for snowmobile trails on some of our property, but those are marked and only seasonal, and you don't have to give access. Like that's a voluntary thing, and year to year, if things had gone bad, if someone had gone off the trail or done any damage, or if you just decided that you didn't want to do that anymore, then there's no obligation for you to maintain that access. It's something that you are doing out of the goodness of your heart, and it's wintertime, so nothing's happening on that ground anyway. But if it, say if it was a farm where you had put in a cover crop and didn't want the snowmobiles on it that winter, then you just would say no, and they would have to find another route to go on.
But you don't want to be seen as this grumpy, miserable farmer. So you do.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Yeah, you want to be a good neighbor to the people who live in your community.
Yeah, the village is so close to us. Like if I went outside, I could see it kind of thing in the distance. And like even in the new building we've just put up, I've put like a balcony with an office and then this huge viewing balcony. And when they were doing all the gates and stuff, I said, can you please put a rail all the way around it? It's breeze block, but probably up to maybe my thighs. And it was just a little bit low for comfort when the children went up. And I just thought, And then I thought, well, while we're at it, we might as well get schools involved. So I've got in touch with our my children's school and said, when we're set up and we've got stairs, because at the minute we're going up a ladder, but when we've got stairs and things, do you want to bring the children to have a look? They're robotic. It's quite exciting. Technically it'd be quite a high welfare kind of unit where the cows are choosing to do what they want, and it's not necessarily, the stereotypical dairy unit that they would see, even in the media, where calves being ripped off their mothers and things like that. Which that's another thing as well that I'm getting used to. Like, I've spent all my life putting cows and calves together, and to take them apart is just a crazy thing in my head. But you do learn. I left a couple of them longer than I should because they were on withdrawal anyway because of the colostrum. And I just thought, why am I taking the cow to the shed to milk it, to bring the milk back to give to the calf, when I could just leave them together? Oh my God, what a carry on when they'd literally built that bond up. And I realised you just have to learn yourself, don't you? And then the next one that calved, I literally, as soon as it fell on the floor, she licked it clean. I took the calf. She didn't even know what had happened. She went off. She was absolutely fine. The calf didn't bawl once for its mum. And I was like, this is why it's done like this. And you realise yourself, like, why things are done like that. But if you'd have told me 6 months ago that we take the calves off because of this, I'd have gone, oh yeah, of course you do, kind of thing. But you've just got to learn yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a total different setup for sure. Why don't we use that as our transition point into kids? It's not the same thing, obviously. We kept ours around.
Oh, I sent mine straight out to the barn before we got attached to them.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, lick them off and then send them away. So we talk a lot to our guests about that transition point of becoming a parent for the first time, and as moms, what that was like. So can you talk a little bit about when you first became a mom and what was happening on the farm at that time too, and how has that kind of changed over the years?
Yeah, how old was I? 25, maybe 26, something like that. Anyway, I was picking ragwort on my due date, it's like a weed that we get. And it's quite an invasive thing, and it literally takes over all the fell side. It's yellow, it's beautiful. I don't know if you guys get it. Bright yellow, and it's stunning, and the bees and everything love it. But if it's pulled and dried, it is toxic to horses and can kill them. So you try and keep it pulled. It's not good. If you swamp it with sheep, they'll eat it early enough, and then it never grows. But obviously, if you're not a sheep kind of person, as we weren't back then when Anna was born, which is 2012 now. And yeah, I just had it in my head that I was not gonna let it change anything that I was doing. So I probably killed myself a little bit too much, and did some very, very silly things. And looking at people now, when they're pregnant and they're, working sheep and working cows and stuff, and I kind of, I don't know whether I shake my head or I just want to say, come on, just be a bit careful, maybe. But nothing bad ever happened to me, and I was very lucky. I spat kids out in like 8 minutes, and easily as well. And I couldn't give advice to anybody else about childbirth at all because it was literally that easy. Like, they just flew out, and it wasn't a bit of bother to me at all. I think I was just probably should have been made for having more than 2 kids. And like, I'd advised a girl at nursery, Becca, bless her, she was having her first child, and I was like, oh, Becca, it's a piece of piss. I said, honestly, I said, you go in. I said, everyone makes it. I said, there's no noise. There's none of this. Ah. I said, it doesn't happen like that. I said, oh, it's not that bad. I said, it's like having a massive shit. And like, you fire this kid out and everything's fine. She split from like front to back. And she literally, like, a second child, she had to have a cesarean. And she had a really, really tough time. And I was like, that was the moment that I kind of realised, you say nothing to anyone ever again about having children, ever. Because mine were just so easy to do. And like, I just took them. Roy's mum with Anna, like, obviously it's a long time ago now, she was absolutely incredible. Very much tag team bringing the kids up. I'd walk into her house because obviously the farm was theirs, like, not this farm, but like the original, like, small holding kind of setup was at their house. And I'd walk in, dump the kid on her. I'd walk outside for some free time and do a bit of farming and stuff, leave it to her for a few hours, come back in, pick the kid up, take it home. And that's how we worked. We ate with them every night. I didn't even have to cook. Like, honestly, it just came so easy, this team effort of bringing Anna up. And then we got this place and I had Rufus. and I expected it to be pretty much exactly the same. And don't get me wrong, he flew out in less time than she did, and I just dragged him outside, and he didn't have a choice. I was scraping cows. We had an old collie dog that'd sit by his pram. I only tipped him out of it once, so that was a bonus for me. But like, I just dragged him everywhere, and he didn't get a choice. And he was easier when he was confined in a pram. And then as he got slightly older, he was more hard work because he'd try and walk around and things, which was really annoying. But yeah, he's just been dragged around on the farm.
Yeah, the mobile version of babies is much more challenging to just get stuff done when you can't keep your eyes on them.
It is, you know, that first bit when you first have them, and they're kind of confined to a pram or a sling or something. That bit that looks like it might be harder work, that's not the hard work bit. The hard work bit's the bit when they're trying to walk around and you can't get things done. And that bit I did find challenging. So we have an Auntie Anne, and Auntie Anne would come down for an hour of a weekend kind of thing, and she'd sit with them inside and read them stories and do nice things with them and bake and God knows what. And I'd just, yet again, go and shirk all responsibility and just go outside and do some work, which was great.
I'm sorry, Arlene. I just love that you just said shirk all responsibility and go outside and work. Just go out and farm, do the easy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing kids up is not natural farming is great.
So now that your kids are a bit older, how do you find the balance of, like you said, getting them to school and to, birthday parties and all the other stuff that comes with having older kids, and balancing that with the farm, and especially the newness of setting up a dairy and all that kind of stuff? How is that working now?
I would say, in all honesty, I feel guilty probably 98% of the time every time I think of a child, because like it's even a case of like Anna will say, should I pick her up from school? And the school is like a mile and a half away. It's just down there kind of thing. And if I was probably more trusting, she could walk through the fields and get to the village kind of thing. But like she's 11, and I just think, God, yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm still a bit like,
she'll probably set something on fire and take a dog with her and cause all sorts of hell. And
I like, honest to God, she would. She'd take a quad bike, and then the police would end up bringing her back. So like, she'll say, "Can I go to the park?" And I'm like, all I can think is that I have to like stop what I was doing to go back and pick her up. I'm like, no, you can't go to the park. So I feel guilty for that. And then like, kids bloody parties and stuff. And like Sunday the 1st of July, 10:30 to 11:30. So this is like what, 30 miles away in Carlisle. And I've got to go, and like it's that sitting at a kid's party, and I'm like, I've got shit to do. Like I've got a lot to do. Do you know what I mean? So I find,
and I had to get cleaned up to get here.
oh my God, like literally, like, and people don't recognize me when I roll up not looking like this. And like, it's crazy. Like I've got a bra on and everything. It's mental. But like that bit, I feel really guilty about finding time to make for doing things. And like, bless Anna the other day, she was like, "Can we go on holiday?" And I was like, like, what the hell do you think we are? Like normal. But yeah, I think social services should have probably taken him away at some point in the past. I tend to think the farm's a garden, and like I'm just in the garden doing stuff. Like I could be 3 miles away and the kids are in the house. And that's the bit that I struggle knowing morally where you sit, leaving your children in the house when you're not there. Because yeah, I'm still on the property, but I could be a long way away. I could be further than going to the shops kind of thing for other people. So that bit I find kind of hard to know where you sit. And like you ask anyone else about it and they kind of go, shh, 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 don't talk about it. Just don't talk about it. Like it's one of the things you don't talk about. But like I know people, the mum and dad were milking and they'd have a walkie-talkie. And the walkie-talkie would be in the middle of the landing, in the middle of the children's bedrooms. And at 8 o'clock, they'd be like, right, get up for school. And that was how they got woken up in the morning. Like, it's a different way of life, isn't it?
Yeah, they're good. He only fell out of his pram once.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He toppled, like the whole thing fell over, the whole pram. God, I felt guilty. Oh, my God. I must have put him on a bit of uneven ground.
I was telling our son this weekend about when we took him to the fish hatchery, and my husband didn't buckle him in the front of the 2-seat stroller, and he slid right out onto the pavement. I mean, he was like a year old probably. He wasn't like...
I thought you were going to say into one of the tanks, which would have been much more impressive. I was waiting for a wet child.
I know, I was waiting for this.
Well, that's why we weren't paying attention, because the girl child, who would have been, 2, and these hatchery tanks are only like 10 inches high around the edge.
Someone would probably still end up in a tank, though.
I might be willing to take them again now that they are 6 and 7. Maybe. But mistakes were made.
Mine would be taking a like a fishing rod in and getting his dinner.
It is interesting, though, to think about how we, I probably, when my kids were younger, wouldn't have, like you said, gone grocery shopping or run into town to pick something up and leave them in the house. But yet, with so much of those farming tasks, it's like, well, it's right outside the door, and they'll be fine for a few minutes or an hour or 2 or whatever. But and they know where you are. But yeah, I think I agree. It's one of those kind of unspoken farmer things about, when we're ready to stop dragging them with us, because that's one option, and it has risks.
I will say that's very much a position that we're in, with the kids being 6 and 7. And it was one of the first sort of notes on my list of reasons that I started this, when we started the podcast, was that I was in all these parenting groups where these moms were saying, oh, I don't even go to the mailbox without my baby, and they're talking about like 30 feet from the front door. And I'm like, yeah, no, absolutely not. I would never, go out and check sheep without my baby. Like, yeah, I'm going to come running back in, but
Well, if you're ever in a parenting Facebook parenting group for farm people, one of the most common questions is, how do you find the longest range baby monitor, and how do you keep track of your kids in the house while you're trying to get something done, because there are tasks that are just not safe to bring a kid along, or if they're napping, then that's a time where you can be productive, right? And being productive does not always mean doing things around the house. It means that you can run out and get some jobs done. So yeah, it's a hard balancing act for sure.
So can you guys, are your children allowed in machinery for like the arable farmers among you?
I mean, the tractors will say that a buddy seat is not meant for a child, but there's no one who actually would enforce, not having kids in.
Why would you have a buddy seat?
Yeah, it was supposed to be for training purposes or something.
But I mean, why would you have a buddy seat for
See, it's illegal for a child to even...
But yeah, in the UK, it's illegal to have a child in a tractor. Under what age?
Yeah, under the age of 12, I think it is.
And then how...
Yeah, under the age of 12, even just riding in the tractor with you, that's illegal. You're not insured. Your insurance won't cover it. Yeah, it's quite... and it's a really annoying point for me, because I would rather... Fair enough, Anna, who's, she's 11, 12 years old, she can know kind of, I'd rather Rufus, who is, 7, I'd rather him be next to me than, like, they're big wheels. Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, in a buddy seat with a seatbelt right beside you definitely is a safer option than somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I said no open station tractors until they're quite a bit older because of the risk of them falling off. But I don't know any kids who've been hurt in an accident involving a tractor with the cab when they were inside the tractor. I mean, I've heard quite a few of kids running across the farmyard and getting hit, things like that, but never in it. Around here, I mean, most kids are driving tractors by the time they're 12. We have a fair number of kids who are driving cars by the time they're 12. This is not an abnormal thing.
I wonder, it's funny how I wonder whether we are more heavily policed, being a lot more closer to, cities and towns and things. And also maybe slightly heavily scrutinized because you're so accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in terms of the roadways too, I mean, yours are much narrower and busier.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that moving equipment and those types of things are, I mean, it's risky anywhere. People make stupid decisions, but especially on narrow, windy roads, I'm sure that trying to move heavy equipment there must be extra challenging.
That's that's a good point though, Arlene, because I guess the accidents we do see with tractors with cabs generally involve other vehicles hitting them, something of that nature. Where generally we're on our farm, you wouldn't leave the farm property to go from one field to the next. I mean, you might be on the road, but it's our property on both sides. There's not a lot of traffic or anything. So that is a very different situation than like having to cross highways or something with the equipment.
So Charlotte, you already talked about the guilt, but what about the good stuff? What is your favorite thing about being able to raise kids on a farm?
Do you know what? They've got so much space, and they can like you'll he's got into archaeology this month. We're doing, and he's going to be an archaeologist, and he's stolen some axes, and he's gone onto a pile of dirt that we've tipped from somewhere, and he's finding all sorts of stuff, and he's got this tiny shitty metal detector that I'm going to get him a proper one though. And he's like trying to find treasure and things. And you'll walk around the corner and you'll look across this field where this big pile is that it's just topsoil that we've dumped, and it's been there for years. And he's digging in the side of it, and I just think, do you know what? It is so much better that he's like that than the kids at school talking about going on Fortnite and all this, computers and like the things that come home from school, like warning us about like online gaming and things like that. We don't have any of that, like, because they don't have it. They did have an iPad, and I took it off them at Christmas just because I could see it. Just all they wanted to do was play on the iPad, and I'm like, you haven't been outside for weeks. You don't even know what's going on. Like, oh, the pig's still there. No, the pigs were killed 3 months ago. Do you know what I mean? It was like, so without having any iPads and electronic kind of things, they just live in that kind of free existence, which, yeah, it's just brilliant. I love it. Absolutely love it. And the other one would be definitely like the food that they eat. They are so lucky to eat the food that they eat. They won't realize it. They won't realize it until they're a lot older. But I'm just really grateful to be able to provide that for them.
I thought the other day it was funny. We sell a little bit of meat out of our freezer just to friends and neighbors, and I had written some prices on the side of some roasts and some steaks because we've got freezers at our house, but also my in-laws have freezers at their place, and they had more room because there's just the two of them there. So there were prices on the side of some things, and my father-in-law said to me, I was afraid to take meat out of the freezer because I didn't realize how much it was worth. And I was thinking the same thing with our kids, right? Someday they'll go to order a steak at a restaurant and be like, what? Why does that cost so much?
Yeah, but even like the roasts and things, I could not afford to say, like last night we had a roast of beef, and it was a big hocking piece of beef. It was huge. And then I used about a quarter of it, and then then the night after I put it in a stir fry, and then I chopped it up for sandwiches. Like you do, you just use it all. That piece of beef would have been 60 odd pounds, like for a piece of meat. And I'm like, how, like, turkeys at Christmas were 110 quid. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then you think about how much we actually get for those products, and how sad it is, the difference between what the farmer gets and what people are actually paying for it.
Someone's making money, aren't they?
That's probably why they think we're all rich.
Yeah.
All right, so we ask all of our guests, if you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win.
Felted artwork. Needle felting. Absolutely love it. We've got a show coming up, Eccleston.
I think that's the fastest response we've ever gotten.
Well, I used to do it as a job. Before I did the YouTubing, I did needle felting on the side, and that was literally how I made my money. And it was pet portraits, dogs, a lot of dogs. And yeah, I wish I had the time. I need to do something constantly with my fingers, with my hands to keep me occupied. And it's that nighttime, when you sit down before you go to bed kind of thing that I really struggle. I can't just sit and watch television or anything like that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I just need to be doing something.
Katie's holding up her crochet while we're talking.
I love it. Yeah, needle felting for me was just the way forward. And then over COVID, I got into like painting, oil painting. I taught myself how to paint with oils. It is not as hard as anyone thinks. If anyone's considering doing it, just go and do it. It is not what you would led to believe. It's so easy. It's brilliant. And I do a lot of portraiture and things like that. And it was something to just keep my hands busy and my mind free kind of thing. And I like the tactile nature of the wool. And originally I saw some wool being burnt and I was just like, oh, hell no, that's just so wrong on every level. And that's how I started. I picked up some of the wool that they were burning and I took this little bundle of black zwabble wool home and I made a zwabble sheep with the wool. And it just pleased me making that, that round kind of journey with this wool. And then I did it as a hobby. I'd go and I rang a friend, Jimmy Winter, a friend of Roy's dad's, and I was like, I want a Jacob fleece because I had it that it was black, it was white, it was, that's what I wanted. And they were really fluffy. And I didn't have sheep at the time and I wasn't allowed any sheep. So I went and I picked up this smelly Jacob fleece and I washed it in literally with the kettle and the pan and I dyed it in tiny little pieces, and I dried it in front of the fire on a thing I'd made out of sticks, and I just thought I was the shit. I thought I was amazing. I was so at one with Mother Nature, and then I gradually did it on a large scale, and I bought myself a drum carder, and I now have a shed full of wool and no time to do it, and that makes me really cross.
I think everyone on this call probably has a craft hoard. I know I do.
I got my loom set up yesterday, finally.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, Katie bought herself a loom. So
Charlotte, I think I may have actually seen, do you have an Instagram page of your needle felting?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Charlotte Ashley Art, I think the Instagram is. Yeah.
I think I may have been following you for quite a while, actually.
No way.
Because I am dog portraits. I really want to commission one of my
and wool. It's the perfect combination.
Yes, dogs and wool.
There's a dog portrait behind me. I got one sent back. They didn't like it. So there is actually one behind me, and it's not the best one.
Oh, harsh.
I know. It was a learning curve indeed to have something sent back. But yeah, it was just a random German Shepherd.
Aww.
It's been there for about 2 years. But I should have said, it. When people are like, wanting something off you, you don't often say, no, I don't want to do that. You just say, yes, I can do anything because I'm obviously invincible. And she wanted a picture of her German Shepherd before the groomers had taken the hair off its ears because she didn't like them doing that. And she wanted it slightly more like when it was a puppy, but with the colour of when it was an adult. And I went, oh, yeah, that's fine. I can do that. And then it came out like that, which I thought was a really good kind of sort of a mashup of what the dog what she wanted, but obviously she didn't like it and she was like, no, I don't like it. And I was like, do you know what, just fuck it, just send it back. I don't care, I'll give you your money back. I can't be asked with the hassle, like just send it back. So yeah, I've got we called it, his name was Jerry Lee, and they were kind of like gypsy kind of people, which was an interesting kind of person to deal with. They like to have a deal, you know what I mean, and they're very loud, these kind of guys. And yeah, she just didn't like it at all. And I was like, do you know what? No hardship, just send it back. So I've got Jerry Flea. I renamed him. And yeah, he's been sat there for 2 years. So if anyone wants Jerry Flea, just have it. Just text in, do whatever. You can have it. I'll send it all the way to you.
It's not really anyone's dog because it's elements of a dog that were never all in existence at the same time.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. At the risk of us talking for more hours, I'm going to move us into our cussing and discussing segment. So if you're a listener and want to submit your cussing and or discussing, you can go to our SpeakPipe or our email. They are both in the show notes. Katie, what are you inspired to cuss and or discuss this week?
Grocery shopping. I was just thinking about this, about the price of meat. So we have all these gardens, My guinea pigs, I planted a shit ton of lettuce. They won't eat the homegrown lettuce. They will, for some ungodly reason, I don't know, they won't eat it. So when I go grocery shopping, because we raise our own meat, I'm raising our vegetables, you know, we buy milk, but I usually buy it at the local creamery. So when I go to like Walmart or whatever and I buy groceries, it is literally processed shit and cheese and like 20 heads of romaine lettuce. And every time I go to check out with like this mountain of lettuce and then like Pop Tarts, Pepsi, and a 5-pound bag of shredded cheese. And I'm like, I promise we have food at home. Like, we have laying hens. I have 3 freezers full of meat and fruit that I froze last summer. I have gardens. Like, I am not feeding my family nothing but corn syrup and romaine lettuce. I promise you. But then if you act defensive at all, people are like, your kids are eating nothing but lettuce and Pepsi, aren't they? Like, yeah, that's it. Also, this is two. I'm putting both of them in there. There are no art police. You can try new art stuff and you can fuck it up. And as long as nobody's paying you for it, even if they are, like Jerry Flea, so what? You can just keep it or throw it away or post it and let people laugh at the hilariously bad thing you made if it's something horrible. Like, nobody's coming to give you an award for most shit, and nobody's coming to actually get you in trouble for most shit. So, just do the thing.
Yeah, enjoy the process.
As someone who refused to do all art stuff for the longest time because I couldn't do it right.
Yes, there is no right. There is no right.
Wait, Charlotte, what do you have to cuss and discuss today?
Do you know what? You've just made me remember what really annoys me about art stuff. And it was going to be self-service checkouts at the supermarket, like you said, because I just hate them because you go in and, you want to buy something light, like, what are they called that goes with like a Chinese, like prawn crackers? They're not made of a lot. They're very light. Or a birthday card, for instance. You scan it in, you put it on the side, and it doesn't register because it's so light. It just annoys me in general. Like, surely there's some way, without waiting for the entire queue of people to disappear before the guy can look over and see you. But with the art thing, it's Facebook groups about, like, art and needle felting and crafting. God, they're bitchy, and I just hate it. And, so you get like a hierarchy of people that they literally do this for a job. Like, so it would have been me. So I would do it as a job. I'd do it day in, day out, and I'd be so good at it that I could charge money. And then I would literally be posting these things on for the likes and for the adoration. You want worship me because I'm so good at it. And then you've got Mary down the road who's made a needle felted mouse that looks like a penis. And, well, they do, don't they? And like, she's so proud of it, but then she's made to feel like shit because I have posted before her. And then she's just like, well, what's the point in me posting? Because you've got this dickhead who's got like, does it as a job professionally and is posting on a really friendly Facebook page. Like, what am I posting for? Do you know what I mean? I never did. But what would I be posting for? Would I be posting because I want people to see how good I am? Like, worship me? Because I'm not going to make a sale from it because I'm already posting to people that have that hobby. And I just think it's a really, I don't know, like a really bitchy kind of hierarchy of people that do it just for the adoration, and it really annoys me.
And it's such a small group of people too that do that thing. So it's like, why be mean to the other people?
Like, why would you want to make people feel like shit?
Yeah, who are doing the thing that you actually enjoy. Like, why not just let them enjoy the thing?
I think the only thing worse is that occasionally into every group there comes that one young person who has nothing but free time and disposable income. And they'll say, this is the first thing I've ever crocheted. And they'll hold up something that most people could work 50 years and would never make something this good. And it will legitimately be the first thing they've ever made. I'm like, you are clearly some sort of freakish prodigy. Get the fuck out of here. Like, nobody needs this. Let's look at the 58.
But you wouldn't comment that, would you, Katie? You just give it a thumbs up.
I'd say, wow, that's gorgeous.
Good. That's the right answer.
And then I would post some of the wonky ass shit that I am still making 2 years later and be like, I'm having fun. Like,
oh my God. You know, speaking of wonky, I got a t-shirt sent to me today. Can I get it for you? Because it is that good. Wait there. It literally is. It's just outside this door. And somebody has sent it me. And it is my new favorite t-shirt in the world. Stay there. Stay there. It's so good. So good. You'll be able to hear me probably run out of this door.
Yeah, there's the door.
You are. You're hearing me run to my porch.
Yeah, she's coming back. She's going to be out of breath by the time she comes back.
I'm running. Right, are you ready?
Yeah.
I have a cow with a wonky face, right?
Oh my gosh.
And he sent me a picture of the cow and put wonky face. I like it like Picasso.
And is that your cow?
That is my cow.
That is the best.
Like that is literally my goal in life, is to have people to be friends with that send me t-shirts with pictures of cows with wonky faces on them.
Life goal achieved right there.
Arlene, what do you have to cuss and discuss today?
So I'm looping back to our conversation about tractors and roads, because yesterday my 18-year-old daughter was out hauling bales in, so driving a large tractor and a wagon with round bales on it. And I mean, I get angry at people who make stupid moves and try and pass tractors on the road, but it gets even worse when it's my kid who is driving that tractor. And she came home and was...
It's not even my kid, and I want to set this person on fire without even hearing the rest of the story.
Exactly. And we live not too far.
Like, I'm getting on a plane and coming.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not too far from most of our fields, but there is a relatively busy road that we have to travel on. And there's a left-hand turn that you have to make. So for Charlotte, that would be okay. But for us, that means you're crossing a lane of traffic. So people think on that corner that even if you've got your turn signal on and large flashing lights on your tractor and you're 6 times as big as their little car, that they should still pass you before you try and make that turn. And someday it's going to end badly, and it's going to be for the person in the car, but it's also going to have consequences for the person driving the tractor. And I just hate that people can't wait a few seconds and just look and see, what is that vehicle doing? And maybe could I wait 30 seconds and let them do what they're doing first before I try and risk my life and go past it? And it's just so not even frustrating. It's just like anger inducing that there are people out there. And yesterday, we're recording on July 2nd. Yesterday was a holiday. Yesterday was Canada Day. People did not have to work. They were not rushing to their jobs. This was like the middle of a sunny summer day. Like, enjoy the view. Look at that farmer who is working when you have the day off and you're probably going to a cottage or a boat or whatever you're going to do with your day. And just like, let them do their job and don't risk your life, because you're the one who's going to have the consequences of that. But anyway, stupid people who can't slow down for a tractor. That is my cussing and discussing today.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll take a deep breath. And I'm going to say thank you so much, Charlotte, for joining us today. I just love, we've had some Australians on recently, and now we've had you on. And I just love how, like you said, it doesn't matter where in the world we are. It feels like farming parents just get each other. So if other listeners want to see you on YouTube or any of the other socials, where should they find you so they can see your wonky faced cow and what you're up to?
Just on everything I've got, it is Charlotte Ashley Farm.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon with a donation.
Big thanks go out to our show editor, Krista Paffrath at the Rural Podcast Network.
Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen, and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
If you want to connect with other farming families, join the private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch.